what you are. And I don't hate you anymore. I'm ready. Absolutely fucking not. You got me. Fuck my wife, dude. I ain't doing all that. Fucking Silent Hill my ass. Games typically give you an experience that is really easy to digest and interpret, and the narrative is clearly there for you to watch and see. This is what I was usually used to whenever I jumped into a story game, was a clearly written story that I would experience, be like, okay, that's what that story is, and move on to the next one. If you told me there was a game that gave you a baseline of what the story actually was, but all the nuances and smaller details were up to you to figure out, like general true intentions of characters or symbolism that relates to the side characters and their stories, and everything was very open to interpretation and symbolic of each other, I would be hesitant as to what the game was actually trying to achieve with its narrative. Whenever I first heard about the Silent Hill 2 remake, I was very hopeful to play it, even though a lot of the internet was not happy at all with how the main character looked within the first reveal trailer. I was hopeful for it. I had heard Silent Hill as this huge titan in the horror genre that revolutionized a lot of psychological and ambient horror and didn't rely on a lot of jump scares. And I know this is a huge sin coming as someone who plays video games a lot and hopes to make it their job one day. Fucking put the fries in the bag, I get it, okay. So my first impression was hesitant. I had no idea what to expect from any of this. And even though there was a lot of hate on the opening trailer, and some people said James looked like shit, and some people said it was gonna be ass, deep down, I just had this feeling that there was going to be a lot of heart put into this project. So the day it came out, I bought it and I played it. And it was absolutely incredible and left an impression on me that I cannot even put into words, but I'm going to try. And I needed to talk to someone about this game, and luckily you're here right now, and this is my channel, so you don't have a choice. You're going to listen to me talk about Silent Hill 2 for probably over an hour. And if you are a longtime fan of the series and you know the answers to some of my questions, please answer them, because I'm new here. So if you're a veteran, please stick around. I need to ask you some things. Silent Hill 2 opens with our main character, James Sunderland, who has received a letter from his wife that has been dead for 3 years, or so he thinks, that she is waiting for him in Silent Hill. But regardless, if I was in James' shoes and I also got a letter from my dead wife, I would be a little curious. There's more to it than that, but we're gonna get into that later. But that is your entire objective for the game, is to find Mary, James's wife, who has sent him a letter. James, being the man he is, struts right into the woods and starts heading towards the town, trailing by a lake that you can't see yet because of the fog, and this is important for later. You eventually run into a graveyard where you meet the first side character, Angela. And can I say, holy shit, the voice acting in this game is amazing. There's a Golden Joystick Award going on for Best Leading Voice Actor. Go vote for Luke Roberts as James Sunderland. It is one of the most impressive voice acting performances I've ever heard in a game, and one of the best mocap performances I've ever seen in a game. The amount of emotion that this man is able to convey through a character is incredible, and I felt every emotion through every scene that he was trying to convey very clearly. James asks Angela for directions to Silent Hill, and Angela points him in the right direction, but she says that it's probably dangerous. This might be foreshadowing. I'm not sure though, I'm just a guy. We also learn here that Angela is looking for her mother within the town, who she hasn't seen in a very long time. After this short interaction with Angela, James begins heading in the direction that she pointed him into. As you get closer to the town, fog starts to roll in around James, almost in a suffocating fashion, not even allowing you to see 20 to 25 feet in front of you or in any direction. And as you finally reach the town, you get a map of it. And this is all you're told. You're just given a map and told to walk around. You go and explore the first part of the town by yourself, and there are little things to go see and do around here, but we don't know much at all about what's actually going on here. You can go into the flower shop though and read a note about a man buying some red and white flowers and how odd it is because it's a symbol for bad luck. This is a very early form of symbolism, and you should get used to that because nothing in this game is ever as it seems, and you're going to want to look deeper at everything. Especially on a second playthrough, once you understand the lore, everything gets a second meaning. So if you play the game, which if you haven't done, close out of this video, go to Steam, buy the game, play through it again on New Game Plus, and then come back. I will personally call you names in my head if you don't. Once you get past the flower shop, there's not a whole lot to do besides to go look through the hole at the Texan Cafe. You don't really see anything. It's pretty ominous though. Gives you the creeps right off the bat. See a creepy ass taxidermied head. It gets worse from here. There is no getting better. But at this point is to where it really starts to set in that you are pretty much completely alone in this town. And it's odd because you can tell that there's human activity here with the stores and the cars and the barber shop and the groovy music store, but there's just no one here. So as this feeling of complete loneliness slowly sets in into your mind, you start to wonder about a lot of things. Right about here, whenever you start to wonder what's going to happen, this cutscene plays.
Hey, wait.
And then even after it breaks the anticipation and tension of you being alone, it makes it somehow worse because you don't get to actually see what it was yet. It just runs away. But I can tell you one thing for sure, that's not a fucking person. That is a monster. And now you gotta follow that thing. James even says hello to it. Now James, I don't have the best eyesight either, okay? You never say fucking hello to that thing in a million years. There are two options that go through my head if I see a person walking like this. Either A, they are geeking out of their mind, or B, running the other direction. As you keep following it though, you see this evil ass alleyway with blood in it, and James says, yeah, I'm gonna go down that. So you go down it. You're gonna want to get used to the feeling of going down evil ass hallways pretty early on in this game. It's a reoccurring theme, and it never gets better, it only gets worse. You know that innate sense of survival that you have as a human being that me and you both have to survive as long as we can? Throw that shit out the window. That does not apply in this game. You eventually come to a fence gate that you're going to have to open, and once you open, you see something slither away and then a hole in a garage door. You can crawl through the hole, no fucking chance I'd ever do that, but once you do, venture deeper into this house and notice a static noise coming from one of the rooms across the house from you. You enter the room and notice that it's a radio, and once you pick up the radio and inspect it further, you notice there's some movement going on in the background. This is where you run into your first lying figure. This creature is some kind of woman-looking figure with a straight jacket on and high heels, and it looks like it's being suffocated, but it can vomit through a little slit at the top. One of those is important. I'm gonna let you decide which one that is. James picks up a 2x4 off of the window behind him that has nails in it and gives it a good schmack. Now you're going to hit it enough times for it to fall over. Here's the important part. Whenever it falls over on the ground, you're going to want to stomp on it about 57 times to make sure it's actually dead. Because the monsters in this game like to tell you that they're dead, and then they're fucking lying to you, so then they'll catch you off guard about 20 minutes later when you least expect it. You jump through the window, and from this point, you're in another section of the town where the game actually starts. You are now deep within the fog world, and as a newer Silent Hill fan, I genuinely have a question for the veterans that are watching this video currently. This mainly stems from the fact that there are no other people around, even though there's human activity shown through the shops and the parked cars and the full garbage cans. Is the fog world particularly real, or at this point is James already in the beginning of his punishment, and this is an entirely different fucking area from reality? I'm leaning towards the fact that this is an entirely different realm at this point that Silent Hill is made for him, but I would just like the clarification of, are we still in Silent Hill at this point, or is this just like the other world, pretty much, but just like a light version? Mr. Sunderland, if you're watching this video, please answer down below. Thank you. But this right here is where I fell in love with the game. You can also find a memo on the ground telling your ass to turn around and run the other way. That note, combined with the fog and the monsters and the lack of any fucking answers, made me be enthralled and want to learn everything about what's going on. You feel so isolated and the entire world is a mystery, but the game still makes it easy for you to progress and learn more through these memos and James marking stuff on the map for you. It gives you just the right amount of help to find out what's going on, and I loved it. So it ends up feeling like this world that you don't understand, but not in a bad way, because you want to so bad and it gets you enthralled into the main story. Who wrote that letter if Mary died 3 years ago? Where is everyone? There are signs of human activity, but there's no people present. As you start exploring this portion of the town, there's a lot of cool things that you can find hidden in some of the stores and other areas. Like these hidden strange photos throughout the game, which, who took them, by the way? Some stores note it even sounds like they're talking about Pyramid Head, specifically the barber one. You can also run into these little areas where you're able to interact with him, and then if you do, it kind of does this VHS effect overlay on the game, and is paying homage to the original game in their areas. While having to figure out this mystery though, you're gonna have to go to Neely's Bar or the Texan Cafe first, depending on just where you walk to. On my first playthrough, I went to the Texan Cafe and found the coin, and then got fucking jump scared by the crawling, lying figure that I hated. But once you get to Neely's Bar, you might notice that there's big ass writing on the wall that says, "There was a hole here, it's gone now." And I am still curious as to what this actually means. If you have any theories, leave it down below. I'll get deeper into this later on, but I do have some things to say about it. You see a white cloth that's covering something near the end of the bar, and once you take it off, you'll see an old jukebox machine that's broken. You look inside of it and you see a record that's half broken as well. And if you read the memo on the counter, it kind of talks about a guy who was crazy, broke half of it, and said he's going to fix it and walked out with the other half. I don't know how you're going to fix that, man, if you only got one half of the fucking record. There's only one music shop in town, so you head there, and it's the Groovy Music Store. Whenever you walk into, you get attacked by two fucking lying figures that I did not like. Whenever you venture into the backside of the shop, you'll actually find the other half of the record that was taken there by the guy and some glue, so you can glue it back together, and now you got a functional record, bitch! You also see a poster that says something along the lines of, "Music makes the memories flow back to you." So, this might be foreshadowing. In order to get the other part of the jukebox, that's the button, you're gonna have to go to the Saul Street Apartments. Whenever you get there, you'll see a worker area, and then you can go into it by moving some furniture, and then you'll see a memo on the counter that talks about complaints of a leak coming from apartment number 5, talking about their upstairs neighbor. Further, there's actually a pharmacy part of the apartment that you can go into and find a med kit and then another note. After this, you begin to go upstairs and your radio goes off, but it's for the fucking creepers, which I'm pretty sure are just in the game to make your radio go off, to make you scared, and then you turn the corner and it's a tiny little fucking cockroach. Well, it's not tiny, but it's tiny to compare to whatever the fuck this thing is. Whenever you get to the second floor, you'll immediately notice that there's something weird going on. Well, there's something weird going on with the entire town, but there's something weird going on in the second floor in particular, in the third floor. You go into a hole in the wall, and then the cutscene plays where James appears to hear footsteps coming from the floor above him. After it, he goes on the outside stairwell and climbs up to the third floor and jumps through a window, only to find that there's nowhere in there but a spooky-ass hidden memo on the counter that people still don't know what it actually says. And even more uncomfortable than this is the fact that there's a bathroom with a hole in the wall. I'm going to give you 3 guesses as to what James does to this hole in the wall. Number 1, looks at it, says that's fucking weird, and does not touch it and keeps going about his day. Number 2, looks inside of it. Number 3, puts his whole ass arm inside of it to get whatever's on the other side. Now, I don't know what thought process you would have to do number 3, but James does that one. You're going to stick your hand in it, and then the game's really going to test to see if you want to stick your hand in there. And of course, you're going to stick your hand in there. But after that, you acquire the jukebox button from the hole in the wall, and the game never lets you see what's actually in that room, and I'm still curious as to what's behind that door. But now you got all the pieces of Exodia, and you can go fix the jukebox. Now, as you run back towards Neely's bar, you'll probably notice a lot of locations that you can enter by breaking a window. And it's worth exploring all of these because you can get health items that you're going to need later on. You go back to the jukebox, you play the song, and it brings up memories from James. He then remembers the Rosewater Park, which is where him and Mary spent a whole day just looking at the water. So he decides that he needs to go there. And my favorite part about this game is that James also has no fucking clue what he's doing. Silent Hill is just kind of guiding him. After this, you can go into the back of the bar because the jukebox spits out the key for the employee area. You read a note that James then marks on the map to go find a green-bluish car, and once you do, you find a pile of what's left of a man and also find the Woodside apartment key. Now, as soon as you pick this up, the wind in the area picks up rapidly and a lot of monsters spawn and become much more hostile. Could this jacket on the ground that very much so resembles James' jackets be from a previous version of James? No, I'm just kidding. I wanted to include that theory somewhere though. I don't think it's necessarily plausible, but it's definitely a fun one to talk about. So James books us to the Woodside Apartments because we got to go through there to get to Rosewater Park, and god damn it, true love never dies. But there you get a real taste of what this game has to offer you, which is torture and pure agony in the best way possible. Pure dread. Pure distress. Waiting in the DMV line, distress. The middle of your hot pocket is cold, kind of distress. There's a lot of enemies and a lot of scenarios in this apartment that will make you lose your shit. And I partially think that's because you have no idea how this world that you're in actually exists. Sure, it's somewhat of like a normal world that we're used to, but there's definitely some alterations of what is normally physically possible in a person and a being here. I have never seen anyone crawl like that with their arms tied behind their back. I have also never seen a hole in the wall that has a jukebox button for whatever reason. This defies everything that we humans understand to be normal. So every time you enter a new area in this game, for lack of a better analogy, it's like pulling out onto a road that you cannot see if there's oncoming traffic, and you have no idea what's going to be there. And every time it's an 18-wheeler. Sometimes there's a Honda Civic, there's a nice little treat of ammo and meds, but most of the time it's the 18-wheeler. And it's a very big contrast from the outside world that we were just in. Instead of it being open and your radio constantly going off, and now it is suddenly very confined, quiet, and you're left with your own thoughts, making up the worst scenarios that you can about this building. Once you walk into the office area, you'll notice a coin machine that requires you to gather 3 coins and solve a poem. More than this, though, you'll also find handgun ammo. James with a gat. What? What the fuck? You begin exploring, and the first thing that you're going to notice is in the mail area under the stairwell, there's going to be a note complaining about some gunshots or gun sounds coming from apartment 217. Further foreshadowing the gat. Afterwards, you're going to go up to the stairwell and go to the 2nd floor and then walk into the hallway and see this. See whatever this is. Every hallway in this game is handmade to make you feel the most uncomfortable and unsettling feelings you're ever going to see in your life. If this is not a trap, I don't know what the hell is. This, of course, being Silent Hill, you walk directly into the room. And you'll see a mannequin with some clothes on and a flashlight. After you pick up a flashlight off the mannequin, the light will flicker a little bit, and then a mannequin as the enemy will appear. Now, the mannequin enemies are one of my least favorite because they scare the shit out of me. They're actually a really cool design. You see, they'll try to attack you and surprise you by acting like a piece of furniture or a mannequin. They'll hide in a room waiting for you to get close to them, and then they'll smack the shit out of you. I hate them. Now, whenever you interact with the mannequin, you'll notice that the only part of it that is disconnected from the rest is the head, and it's on the dresser or mirror, whatever you want to call, behind it. Now, the only part of this mannequin's head that's covered by a shadow is its mouth. Jason kind of comments on these clothes and makes a weird statement about it, and you later realize that these are Mary's clothes. After this point, you go back in the hallway, but you can't go down the other side of it because it's locked and you don't have the key for it yet, you fucking dumbass. But you can go out into the shoot courtyard and you'll see a newspaper clipping talking about cluttered house, cluttered mind. This may or may not be talking about James and all the side characters. You also see a container on the ground that you can move and get it close to a window, and then James can hop through the window. Once you explore further into the apartments, you'll encounter some enemies, but you also see a part of the apartment that is barred off for whatever fucking reason, the landlord's special over here. And then whenever you go to reach for the key, it gets stepped on by a little girl and then runs away. Now at this point of the game, you're probably thinking, A, why the hell is there a little girl here whenever there's these horrific demonic monsters walking around? And B, who the hell is that? Well, you're going to want to go back to the main lobby area and you're going to hear laughing coming from the other side of the door. And the door that was once locked is now unlocked and you can go in there and grab the key. In room 108, there's also an interactable item that you need to get, the golden apple handle, and it opens the dresser and reveals a wedding dress. You go up to the second floor because you can now unlock it with the key that you got from the little girl stepping on your hand and opening that door for you, and you can walk around the second floor. You kind of walk around for a bit and mosey around, and then you encounter Pyramid Head, one of the most famous video game characters of all time. I had never played Silent Hill 2, so I didn't get why. I now understand why Pyramid Head is a staple. This guy is terrifying. Nightmare rotation ass character. And while yes, his appearance is awful and terrifying, what irks me the most about this goddamn first interaction you have with him is the music that plays directly in the room next to him. .213. After seeing this fucking evil ass looking dude walking into 213 where you're completely by yourself in a room and he's out of your eyesight and your brain's telling you he's fucking moving around while I'm not looking at him, and you hear this shit, oh, it is not a good time. It was never a good time. And then you go through a hole in the wall in 213 and you're expecting Pyramid Head to jump out at some point and fucking beat you up, but he never does. The tension only builds through this portion of the game. Akira Yamaoka is one of the most talented artists that I've ever listened to, and I am sorry that I am butchering that name. But by God, he has worked on so many shows. He worked on Cyberpunk 20. He worked on Edgerunner. Did you guys know that shit? I didn't know that. But he does all the soundtracks for the Silent Hill games, and he kills it every fucking time. After Pyramid Head decides to not fuck you up in this hallway, you go down to the end of the hall and find 213, and you find James's gat in it, and you find your first gun, the pistol, and it helps a lot with lying figures and mannequins. But while you're in the hall of 213, you'll see a stairwell that is blocked off because, well, it's being renovated and there's a lock on it that you can't open quite yet. Also, the note downstairs that said they couldn't find any trace of the gun in the room of 213 are fucking lying. You motherfuckers were bribed not to notice that shit, dude. However, whenever you get back into 213, you're gonna notice that there's a body now in front of the TV. Whenever you go to inspect it, you realize it looks a lot like James's. And I think that this is just a subconscious showing him what he thinks his punishment he deserves is for what he did, but it's still a cool thing. Seeing this as the first time playthrough freaked me the fuck out. Seeing a body that looks just like your character, but you can't actually identify it with the rag over it, that is the perfect way to fuck with the person playing the game just enough. After this, right by the room, you'll see a trash chute with one of the coins in it, but we're only on the second floor and there's no way of reaching it, so we keep going. We'll eventually go to the area where Pyramid Head was, and he's no longer there. Fucking great, dude. It's like seeing a tarantula in your house and going to get a shoe, and whenever you get back, it's gone. You keep going until you reach room 208, which looks normal, but if you look closely, there's a wardrobe that looks just like the one you got the golden apple from, and whenever you put it into there, it opens and shows a peephole. You look in the peephole, and there's evil-ass room with evil-ass writing on the wall. Evil-ass room of agony and despair. You push the wardrobe to the side, and then you can go in there, and you realize that it's a puzzle with images on the wall and a poem on the wall, and the poem tells you which order to put the numbers into the safe. Once opening it, though, you get a coin, and you also get a key to the door to let you out of the evil-ass room. I'm assuming you don't want to be in there that long. It's not very nice. You get the man coin, and you get a key to the stairwell that we couldn't go up to earlier, so you go in there, and you open it, and you go up to the third floor. The third floor is also very unsettling as it's being renovated, so everything has a white tarp over it, and it makes you feel like everything is hiding under all of the white tarps ever, and there are creatures waiting to grab you. And you also read an ominous note. Whenever you pick up this ominous note that's on the third floor and you read it, it actually says, "I know that there is something here. I know, and I can feel it. It all looks normal, but it's not. Is it trying to get out, or should I get in? I have to uncover it and rip it to the surface. This is hinting at what's actually going on here. Pushing forward on the 3rd floor until eventually you reach the trash chute on the 3rd floor. Now there's a 6-pack of soda cans on the table, and James will grab them and then fucking chunk them down the chute, and he'll knock loose the coin that's in the shaft. You go out to the courtyard chute area, you grab the coin, and you got 2 out of the 3 coins, baby. Now, once you keep going past the chute, there will be a new doorway that's unlocked, and almost all the doors in this area are not enterable and locked, and you cannot fucking go in any of them. But as you go to the end of the hallway, you're going to hear some strange noises, which sounds like a man vomiting and crying. And then you enter that room, and there's a man dead in the fridge. And you can't see his face, because there's rotten food over it. That is fucked up. Whenever you walk to a certain portion of the room, a cutscene plays where James opens the door to the bathroom, and this is where you meet Eddie. And he immediately starts proclaiming that he did not kill this man, which is a little sus in my opinion. But my brother also swears that Eddie looks like a live-action Chris Griffin, and now I cannot unsee it. Eddie tells you that he was attacked by the monsters, so he ran in here to hide. James then goes on to ask Eddie if he lives here. And Eddie says no, that he's not even from this town. What's interesting to note is this the same thing that Angela said earlier, that she doesn't live here also, but she's just looking for her mother. Which is kind of a common theme, is that all the people that come here don't actually live here. Eddie then asks James if he would like to dip with him and leave the town, and James says, no, I'm still looking for my wife. And to be respectful, whenever he leaves, James closes the door. What a good guy. What a swell man. Eddie's backstory has everything to do with why he's in Silent Hill. I'm not going to talk about it quite yet, but whenever you go into the room directly next to Eddie, you're going to see a room with a bunch of football posters, a football helmet, and a award for a football player on the dresser. Which is cool to see that it's already manifesting around Eddie and changing it to be whatever his biggest regrets and fears and vulnerabilities are. It's just a cool little touch that I noticed. In the back of the apartment that Eddie's in, you can jump out of a window and go to a pool kind of lounge area. The pool is kind of foggy, but there's a lot of lying figures in it, and once you kill all of them, you'll see a stroller in the middle. Now, whenever you interact with the stroller, you'll get the snake coin. Now, you should probably save at this point because you have all the coins to do the puzzle. It kind of hints at where to put the coins in the spaces and which way to flip them to tell a story. And then whenever you solve the puzzle, you get the key to room 201. And whenever you get in there, you're going to notice a very peculiar looking door, which if you don't know what it means yet, oh buddy, you're about to fucking find out. You go and pick up a bloody handkerchief, and then this cutscene plays. So, of course, your natural instinct right after that happens is to follow it. So you follow it. Jokes aside, this cutscene is fucking awesome, and this concept of the otherworld that you're about to figure out is one of the coolest concepts I have ever seen in a game. Whenever you enter the otherworld, it is a version of the apartments that is feeble and inhumane. It is this altered version of the natural environment that you were just in. It's the apartment complex. And instead of abandoned rooms, you now have big tarps made of skin laying over furniture with this brown, dirty tinge to it. Rusty metal grates and rusty fences everywhere that you can kind of see through, and it looks like everything would give you tetanus ever. Big chunks of the wall are missing to show those rusty metal grates and fences to show you that everything here is artificial and is not as it appears. And evidently, if you ever see a place that looks like this, leave it immediately. Maybe you can't. If you're ever in the other world, you probably wouldn't actually be able just to point. You can't just leave it. But don't go near it. You spend this section really just soaking in the other world for the first time, and you're introduced to it. Cautiously exploring the hallways, not knowing what to expect, because this is no longer rooted in any of the real world at all. You are in a completely different environment, which is most likely home to this fucking guy, because you see slashes on the wall. You do puzzles here that have to do with clocks and bird figurines. And strangely enough, a toilet. So for the first part, whenever you get in there, there's really not a lot to do besides explore until you reach a room. In this area, you have to find all of the hands that correlate to a clock and put it on this clock in the room that you were first introduced into. It gives you a hint at what area to put the hands in on the wall behind you, but also the note on the table that's there. You lower a radio that's chained up by doing some valves, and it eventually falls into the table, and you can acquire the hour hand. You shut the hour hand to a specific time, and it unlocks the H door. There's doors around the apartment complex that have H, M, and S on it for hour, minute, and second, or Henry, Mary, and fucking Scott. Yeah. You enter room 210 that unlocks by putting the hour hand in a specific place, and you think, wow, this looks fucking great. This looks so nice. You see a wall that you can break, you break it, you go in there, and you see a toilet that looks absolutely vile and foul and disgusting. I'm going to give you 3 guesses as to what James does. So James puts his whole ass hand and arm in there and gets the minute hand. But now whenever you go back into the room, it is completely otherworldly and looks fucked up and rusty and gross. And a lying figure breaks in to break it up even more. From here you have to do the bird puzzle, and whenever you gather the 2 bird figurines, the malformed one and then the normal looking one that is not malformed, and you balance it on a scale, it breaks open to get the winged key. You can then open the winged door and jump down into a hole. After you explore this area, you'll eventually get to room 109, which is where you'll meet Angela again from the graveyard. And she is very troubled on the ground with a knife, just looking at herself in front of a very large mirror, looking as if she's debating what to do with it. And the implication here is very, very dark. James tries to comfort her by saying there's always another way. Angela refuses this notion and says maybe it's easier just to run than to actually confront her problems, referring to the knife in her hand. And then she says maybe that's all we deserve, referring to her and James, saying that they're the same. And James gets very defensive about this and says we are not the same.
We.
Me. You. We're all the same.
I'm not like you.
After getting very defensive, Angela asks James one simple question. Are you afraid? James' reaction by this says everything that you need to infer the answer, but he never directly answers this to her. James then goes on to ask if she found her mother like she was planning, and Angela says no. Angela then asks James if he's found the person he's looking for, and of course, we know that he hasn't yet. James then shows her a picture of what Mary looks like and says that she died 3 years ago, and goes on to say that he thinks he's not crazy. James is fucking insane. Angela then stands up and says that she needs to go find her mom, and asks James to hold on to her knife because if she does, she doesn't know what she's gonna do with it. As James attempts to grab the knife from her, Angela lunges at him and says, "I've been bad, please don't," drops the knife and runs out.
No! I'm sorry! I've been bad! Please don't!
I love this cutscene and is one of my favorite in the entire games. Silent Hill 2 is a depressing game that shows you the deep dark sides of very vulnerable and damaged people. And Silent Hill changes depending on what that person's past and vulnerabilities are, trying to get them to face their past and overcome it and realize who they are as a person. James' vulnerability is his wife, so of course all the enemies are females besides Pyramid Head, which we see relentlessly and brutally antagonize the female enemies around the game and do terrible things to them, meaning to represent the very repressed part of James that he does not want to face and refuses to remember. He fucking repressed so much before he even got here. The nurses are made to reveal his sexual frustration and how he would flirt with the nurses while Mary was ill in her bed. So whenever you see Pyramid Head behind bars for the first time, it shows you exactly what James thinks his punishment should be and who he is as a person, but he hasn't realized that yet. So whenever we see Angela in this section and we don't know her backstory at all and we just see her as this person, it can feel odd as to why she treats James as a threat inherently and is so afraid of him. But after you know her backstory, it makes total sense as to why she does this. And Silent Hill looks totally different to her, so given her past and her experiences with men in the past, seeing a random man in a place like this, like Silent Hill, that is meant to manifest your darkest traumas and fears, is the biggest fucking red flag that you could ever imagine. Seeing a man randomly pop up here from Angela's perspective in Silent Hill is fucking awful. Why in the ever-living fuck would she ever trust James in this scenario? But whenever she drops the knife and runs away with it and you pick it up, the description on the item is, "The knife left by Angela, it feels heavier than it looks." This is an incredibly important item description. After this, you explore the rest of the first floor and you see a big ass door with the letter S on it for the second hand or Scott. But you make your way back to the clock, you put the minute hand on it, and whenever you put it onto the right time, it unlocks the M door. And in here, there's a huge moth puzzle that you eventually get the combination to by adding and subtracting the amount of symbols that are on the back of the moth's wings. And you see a big ass hole in the wall. You already know what James is going to do to this. He puts his hand in it and gets the second hand. You put it on the clock, you can change it to unlock the S door. Whenever you unlock the S door, you're going to do your first boss fight with Pyramid Head, and it's pretty fucking spooky the first time because it's Pyramid Head and you have no idea what he is or what he's supposed to represent, and he's just walking at you with a big ass sword. So while you're screaming and running around the arena like a little girl, he's doing the Zoolander model walk fucking blue steel face at you. Eventually though, a big siren goes off and Pyramid Head is almost called to it and walks out of the arena. And then you can follow him and finally get back into the fog world, which the fog world is awful, don't get me wrong, but after spending like an hour and a half in this shithole, you take the biggest deep breath of fresh air and it feels like a weight has been lifted off of your shoulders. You are now on the left side of the town though, and you're free to go to the Rosewater Park, which is what we've been trying to get to for the last 2 to 3 hours. Fucking hooray, dude. So you start to make your way, then we encounter the little girl that stuffed in our hand in the apartment and we start talking to her. She calls you a big dum-dum and then says you didn't love Mary anyway and runs away. Number 1, how does she know Mary? Number 2, damn, that shit hurt. So you end up walking all the way to the park, and when you get there, it's a very safe feeling, but not in a good way. It's very quiet, it's very open, there's a lot of plants around to make it feel more natural than the fucking other world. But it's almost too good to be true. It feels artificial in a way, like something's planning here. It's like a trap. Whenever you get to a part that overlooks the water, presumably where James and Mary spent their time when they're here, you run into Maria. And she looks exactly like Mary besides a few changes. She makes a lot of advancements towards James immediately. And this shit did not feel right at all. I felt gross watching that, which is the point. But she was coming on to James pretty strong. Maria as a character is a perfect punishment for James after we learn what he did to end up here, because he wants Mary back so badly and to find her, and Maria is a constant reminder that he cannot have that shit back because his actions cannot be undone. Silent Hill is actively punishing him just by her existing. bringing him to this safe location that him and Mary once shared, and now with a totally different woman that looks just like his wife. Just to fuck with him. Damn, dude. James then says, "Where is my wife? Because you are not her." Maria says that she knows a place, and you start walking with her to said place.
I can't quite.
Hey. I think I might know. I mean, there's this one place. Not far from here.
What kind of place?
The kind two lovers might call special.
Now, on your way to said place, you need to cut through a motel. And while you're there, you can find the room that Heather stayed in Silent Hill 3. It's a cool little touch. There's even a little order symbol behind the wall. Pretty cool. But after you get through the motel and you unlock the gate, you'll eventually start walking down a neighborhood, and the wind picks up again like it did whenever we found the Woodside apartment keys. And James gets his hands on the pipe in this part. You run through a good portion of the neighborhood, killing lying figures as you run around and mannequins, but you eventually get to Heaven's Night, Maria's location. It's a strip club. Something tells me that Mary might not fucking be here. But it is theorized that the importance of this location is that this is where James came whenever he was dealing with the illness of Mary and couldn't quite handle it, so this is how he coped. But while you're here, a cutscene plays where Maria tempts James to drink, and he looks at it for a second and declines, but he looks at it in a way as if he's had trouble with alcohol in the past. And in the original Silent Hill 2, he goes on to talk longer about this. It is kind of accepted that he drank a lot to get over the death of Mary, which, as we all know, wasn't... If you're watching this video, you're supposed to be fucking completed the game by now. We all know wasn't that long ago. So it is also kind of... It's a common topic to talk about the fact that as James is coming here, he's probably drunk a little bit, and he sobers up as he goes through the game and comes to his senses and starts to view things a little more clearly. Another interesting detail to add is that he does not have a wedding ring on his finger, but he does have a mark where one used to be, and if you look in the Lost and Found, you can actually see a wedding ring there. What the fuck, James? What are you doing? Whenever you're ready to leave, Maria and you will go out the front, and you'll eventually end up at a movie theater. You meet up with Eddie here, and this is where you learn the name of the little girl, Laura. Eddie is going ham on some fucking strawberry ice cream with his bare hands, which is one of the most disgusting things that I've ever seen. James asks if Eddie is alone because he saw Laura run away right before he fucking talked to him, and Eddie says, no. But like almost as if it's a question. Eddie, you are so fucking weird. And then the projector gets turned off. Eddie says that's probably Laura, where we learn her name, and James runs around the theater looking for her. Eventually, Laura runs out the front. Maria and James follow her until she runs into a hospital. Holy shit, the hospital. You venture into the hospital, find Laura scribbling in a stairwell, and whenever James tries to talk to her, she gets scared and runs away. So your goal is to find Laura, but you end up finding a key to the basement. You go down there and you find a generator that you can start up with gas. So you go find the gas, you find a gasoline canister, you put the gas in the gasoline canister, and you start up the generator. Now you have elevator privileges. Congratulations. It's like as good as it gets from here on out, boys. This shit gets pretty rough. You go to the second floor, and as soon as you get there, Maria does not feel too well, so she lays down in C5 of the second floor. And from here on out, you are free to explore the hospital, and let me tell you, this shit is dreadful and disgusting and terrifying, but in the best way. It is October after all. It's probably not going to be October whenever I upload this video, but as of right now, it's October. And within 10 seconds of having free will, you run into dear God, James, what is going on in your head? This enemy, specifically the nurse, represents a couple of things for James. Number one was his sexual frustrations while Mary was ill, and number two is because of the fact that he would flirt with the nurses of the hospital that Mary was in, again punishing him further. The hospital is one of the coolest locations in the entire game. What it represents to James is a very important part of the story. The hospital is a terrible place to be for James, well, because it reminds him of his wife in that time of his life. And well, probably about 2 weeks ago, he was at Mary's side while she was yelling at him because she couldn't accept her fate, and James was contemplating about what he was about to do. I think that him coming to this hospital is a way for him to remember that part of his life because he repressed it so hard. With the nurses and the new woman he found that looks identical to Mary, despite a few different changes in her appearance, and also the fact that the woman who is supposed to represent Mary to him and be a punishment for him that she will never get her back due to his actions immediately starts to feel unwell as soon as we enter this place. All of the posters reference depression and different kinds of medical patients who are supposed to represent James, but also Angela and Eddie as well. And at this point of the game, if you pay attention, you can start to infer that James is not the most reliable narrator, as whenever you read one of the posters in the hospital, there's just a fucking part missing if James reads it. There's a part there whenever you read it in the fucking bulletin board, and then whenever you inspect it, James's mind just erases a part of it. You're going to want to make your way to the director's office, though, and you're going to notice that there's a creepy-ass mannequin hand holding a key that needs 3 bracelets. So you're going to guess what your objective is. It's to find all 3 of those bracelets. After this, you're going to want to go to the women's locker room and grab a shotgun and also inspect the teddy bear, and you're going to get poked by a bent needle in the back of it. What the fuck? Who does that? Who does that? So the shotgun right here is the godsend that you're going to need to deal with nurses. If a nurse is by herself, you can probably just take care of her with like the pistol. But if it's like 2 or 3 nurses, you're just going to pull out the shotgun and take care of them in like 2 shots. One of the bracelets you get by going into the L1 room, and you keep going to it until you reach the utility room, where you're going to see one of the creepiest mannequins of the entire game crawling around on the roof, and then James is going to follow it and fall down fall down inside of a wall and end up in the utility room. After this, though, you can grab one of the bracelets and a little bed sheet for it in the corner of the room, but afterwards the mannequin is going to jump out and try to kill your ass. After this, you're going to get the inner ward key for the first floor, and you're going to be able to open it and go into the pharmacy room, where you're going to notice a clogged drain that you cannot reach into yet because you don't have the items necessary. You're going to want to go out of the window that's in the back of the pharmacy room, go through the garden, and go into the pool area, and then go into the showers, grab the medical tube, combine the medical tube with the bent needle, and you're going to get kind of like this little fishing pole that you can fish out the bracelet that's in the pharmacy clogged drain. Sorry guys, I actually kind of messed this part up, but after you unclog the drain, you'll get what is called a maintenance key, and then from that point, you'll go to the pool area, and you'll see a pump that you can access with it. You'll activate the pump, which will actually drain the pool, and then from there, you'll see a breakable wall where once you reach inside of it, you'll get the second bracelet. And for the final bracelet, you're going to need to go to the 3rd floor and solve a radiograph puzzle that's going to give you the numbers for the combination lock that's across the hall from it, and then get the bracelet from that room. After this, you're going to put all 3 of the bracelets on the mannequin hand, and you can tell if they're in the right order by how the paint cracks on the hand lined up with the bracelet themselves. You'll get the key to the director's storage room, and this is where you're going to see a couple of books. You're going to have to rearrange them and then do the numerical cipher puzzle. And once you solve that, you'll get the rooftop key. Whenever you get on the rooftop, there's really not a lot there. There's a little building structure on the top of it, but also there's a broken down fence referencing the original game from where James was thrown down off of the roof. Could this be a loop theory? No, I'm joking. Once you go into the little structure on the roof, though, you're going to read it and notice a very depressing note. But after you leave the building structure, there's going to be someone there, and he's going to slam your ass down into the elevator shaft. I'm not going to tell you his name, but it rhymes with unlimited bread, which could solve a lot of problems in this scenario. That's a speculation that the fans have not solved yet. I'll leave that up to you guys. After this, you end up finally being able to talk to Laura. Whenever you talk to her, she tells us she has a letter from Mary, and James follows her and then locks him in a room, and then you get to the second boss fight. The Flesh Lips. Not cool, Laura. I would not do this shit to you. Do you see that? This boss fight consists of the boss crushing through ceilings trying to catch you off guard. Much like the hospital, this boss is supposed to represent the memory of Mary to James while she was in her sickly state. It's meant to make him face those feelings between him and Mary at the end of her life whenever she was lashing out at him, and how he reacted to that and how much guilt he's actively repressing. You eventually kill it, but James gets sucked up by something else, and then this cutscene plays where he's getting dragged, and then you wake up in the Otherworld version of the hospital. The Otherworld version of the hospital takes all the unsettling, uncomfortable, and creepy parts of the normal hospital and then ramps it up exponentially. Every single room had me scanning the same corner 3 or 4 times because you can only see through that flashlight. You're scanning everywhere for mannequins. Nurses will randomly come out and just bonk you on the head. The radio is constantly going off, so you never feel safe, and whenever it doesn't because you cleared a room, you walk 5 feet in a direction and then it's going off again. The radio, combined with the atmosphere of this place, is one of the most suffocating feelings in the entire game, and it works brilliantly here. If there's one thing that the Silent Hill 2 remake gets right, and I mean it gets a lot of things right, this game's fucking incredible, it is the feeling of absolute dread and suffocation that comes by being in an uncomfortable environment that you are unfamiliar with and fear of the unknown. It is the perfect sense of horror in the fact that you never feel safe and you never know what's around the corner. And when you finally get out, oh my god, it is the best feeling in the world. In the Otherworld version of the hospital, though, there are 3 areas that you're going to need to go to get a key and 2 combinations for a lock to a central area where that has a box with chains attached to it. You follow the chains to their areas to do a puzzle to get the combination for that specific lock on that chain. One is a clock puzzle in the southern area, and is one of my favorite puzzles in the game because it scares the shit out of you. The western region is a mannequin that you're going to need to go gather medical tools so that you can fucking bash out its eye and get the key for the middle lock. And the eastern region is a medical stretcher on it that once you activate it and electrocute it, reveals the code for that lock. After you do all of that, and you open the box in the middle area, you learn there's nothing inside of it. There's nothing there. You did all that shit for no reason. Good job. Also symbolizing that James knows that Mary is not here. He is still repressing everything inside of him. He just chooses to keep going because he's in denial. Then this door appears behind you, and it is a woman holding a -1 elevator button, basically hinting that your ass is going to the basement. Yes, dude. Yes, my favorite evil ass fucking basement. Let's go. You ride the elevator down, and there's like this questionnaire thing that plays where a guy asks you questions on the history of Silent Hill itself. And if you can remember the correct answers of the multiple choices, you can open a box later on.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. Welcome to another exciting edition of Trick or Treat, where you answer our questions correctly and win a prize beyond your wildest dreams. Or you fail to answer correctly and receive the punishment.
Upon further searching, you'll find a copper ring, and as soon as you do, Maria appears, which is kind of odd considering that not too long ago she was fucking sick and laying down in a bed, and now she's fine, but whatever. She exclaims to James that she's very happy to see him, and James, says Mary as a question because he thinks that it's her, because they look identical. And then he says, sorry, but I'm happy that you're alive to her, and she does not like that shit at all. Then she gets really personal with James and starts guilt-tripping him, saying that all he cares about is his dead wife. Saying that James couldn't care less about her. Really guilt-tripping him, just like the most manipulative shit you've ever heard. Listen, lady, I've only known you for like 4 hours, chill. She then begs him to stay with her and keep her safe. James backs off, kind of implying that he's still just looking for his wife and he's not interested. They talk about Laura for a little bit and then they keep going. Very shortly after this, you'll find a lead ring in a freezer, and James needs Maria's help to open it. Now, right before the elevator, the pharmacy is now open, and you can input the answers from the elevator questions into a box in the pharmacy, correlating to which multiple choice the number is. And then, if you enter the correct one, the box will open and give you some goodies. And if not, you get poisoned, and the box will close permanently forever. I got the poison. I did not get it right. I got the poison. Once you head back up, though, in the elevator, you can put both rings on the lady at the door, and then the door opens. Another cutscene plays, where Maria says that something doesn't feel right, and James puts his hand out, ushering her forward, and says everything will be okay.
Come on. It's gonna be fine.
While descending the stairs past the door, you're going to find a note on the ground that says sick no more. That's ominous as hell. Cool, man. Cool. So then anyway, you keep heading down the stairs until you find a door that you can open. Shortly after this, Pyramid Head comes in and destroys the romantic stroll that James and Maria are having. Run! And ends up killing Maria.
Come on, hurry!
This is his punishment, after all, is that he can never have another kind of Mary that he's searching for. And to punish him even further, it's going to kill Maria in front of him just to make sure that he understands he is never getting another person like that. That whole scene of him entertaining her and ushering her to go with him and to take care of her, because deep down he does want to pursue her, will always, and I mean always, lead to this. She is not real, James. Move on. After you get out of this and you get back to the main lobby of the hospital, you read a book and it talks about the other world as if it's not another side, but really borders the edge of reality. There is no separation between the real world and the other world. It is simply the person who manifests it that engulfs their reality. You find a key on this passage and you look out the door to see Laura absolutely fucking booking it into the town. You can open the front door with the key now, but the town is not right at all. It is dark and there is limitless night everywhere. A section of the roads are just gone now, making you move in one direction. Nurses are roaming the street and the buildings of the town are replaced with these white tarps that are bloody and disgusting. You explore this section of the town, following Laura as you see her and trying to get to her. This part to me represents denial and anger, for the most part, of James denying still what he has done. He is still holding on to something, chasing this kid as if she has the answer, refusing to let go. And the death of Maria definitely ushered him forward. Now he's even more in denial, refusing that he can just lose someone else just like that. You'll eventually make it to Neely's bar and you'll see writing on the wall that says if you want to see Mary, you should just die, but you might be heading to a different place than Mary. Presumably written by Laura, and Laura, I would have to agree with you. You go out back and you keep exploring until you reach a telephone ringing, and whenever James answers it, no one replies or no one says anything on the other side. He does see a note below it with a wrench telling him to go use the wrench on the gate past the door at the end of the street. Once you get closer to the open door at the end of the street, though, there is writing on the wall. And it says, "The door that wakes in darkness, opening into nightmares." And I mean, we are literally in the darkest fucking place in the entire game at this point. You go through the door and you unlock the big gate behind the door with the wrench, and this is where you encounter your first Mandarin. The Mandarin symbolizes feelings of incomprehensible and overwhelming feelings of anguishness and helplessness. And the whole reason that they hang on the grate below you is to symbolize the feeling of they can't escape, and if they let go of the grate, they fall into the infinite void below them. My brother's just another me at this point. I want to get out of this fucking place too. You head to the Rosewater Park, and here you meet Angela for the third time, and you watch one of the most gut-wrenching cutscenes in the game. Angela tells you that she thinks her mom isn't here anymore, and claims that her mom probably doesn't want to see her anyways. James tells Angela that he is happy to see her, and this catches Angela completely off guard.
Hey. Are you feeling better?
This place is different from what I remember. I guess things never really stay the same, do they?
Oh. Yeah, I guess not.
I don't think she's here anymore, James.
Who?
My mama. She doesn't want to see me anymore.
Why would you think that? Anyway, I'm happy to see you.
Happy to see me?
Alive, I mean.
Oh. Yeah.
He clarifies that he means alive within the context of the previous cutscene where we saw her at the apartments. She then gets even more uncomfortable and says that she better get going. James offers his company and she declines. James asks about Laura, and then Angela says that he shouldn't be here. Whenever James tries to comfort Angela, it sets off a traumatic response from her and she runs away.
If we stick together, we might just make it out of here.
Out of where?
This town. Silent Hill.
No, it's fine.
Okay. Oh, you didn't happen to see a little girl around here, did you?
A little girl?
Yeah, Angela? Are you all right? Angela?
No. Please. You shouldn't be here.
Angela, it's okay.
No, don't touch me!
I took this as James kind of acts as a punishment for Angela in a way, because in some cutscenes he appears as her father or mother to her. In the previous cutscene, she talks to James as if he's her father near the end, and she drops the knife and says, "Sorry, I've been bad," and runs off. But this might also just not be the case. This could legitimately just be a very trauma-induced response from her, which is also likely given because of what she's had to endure. If there is any person that I think does not deserve to be in this hellhole, it is Angela, which I know is like the most lukewarm take ever, but you can't help but feel that way. She does not deserve any of that shit. I know that Silent Hill preys generally on vulnerable people and holds up a mirror to them to basically show them their soul and their true self and make them confront their vulnerabilities and past, but my god, dude. But after this, you get a key that goes to the Historical Society below the statue that you and Angela had a conversation by. And there's a note by the key that says if James wishes to continue, the writer of the note says that he prays that the Lord have mercy on his soul. Who is writing these notes? Is it Mr. John Silent Hill himself, dude? You make your way to the Historical Society and you open it with the key, and inside you're going to find a lot of relics and paintings of the past of the town. But most importantly, there's a large painting in the middle of the room that depicts what looks like Pyramid Head. James actually gets scared whenever he sees this painting. It's been talked about that James came to Silent Hill on his vacation with Mary. Whenever he did visit Silent Hill, he came to the Historical Society building and actually saw this painting, and it scared him. And that's why Pyramid Head takes the form that he does, is because this painting by itself had an impact on him. Every single face, and this is a kind of a common theme throughout the game, is blurred out in all these paintings, and then the one painting that does have a clear face lacks a name. After you're done exploring, you can go down the stairwell in the back of the building, which is the longest stairwell ever fucking made. And you descend into darkness, eventually seeing some paintings even talking about the original executioner's clothing and the red pyramid mask that we see Pyramid Head wearing. You'll then jump down a hole and descend further and further into darkness, and this is supposed to be a representation of James descending further and further into his own mind and his psyche and losing his shit. You first meet Eddie and have a very unsettling conversation with him near a dead body, where he talks about killing this man because he looked at him and insulted him, and as James says, you can't just kill a guy for looking at you, he says he was joking. I fucking doubt that.
Any idea why he would do that?
I don't know. He came out of nowhere. Tried sneaking up on me in the dark. I heard footsteps, so I turned back and he was right there.
And you could tell that he wanted to hurt you.
Well, yeah, I mean, the way he looked at me, I just had to do it.
He looked at you? I thought you said he came at you.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it in his eyes.
His eyes?
He kept looking at me, making fun of me. I told him not to, but he didn't listen.
Eddie, you can't just kill someone because of the way they looked at you.
You should see your face, James. I was just joking. The guy was dead when I got here. I got you, didn't I? Well, anyway.
From this point on, you're going to be adventuring around the Toluca prison, and you're going to want to go out into the yard and notice that there's... Oh, and you'll also notice that there's a statue with scales on it once you remove the white tarp that's over it. As you adventure around the prison, you'll gather different scales, and you're able to open different rooms with animals on them by making the scale weigh correctly in a direction opening that door. You'll be able to open one door at first, and you go into that room, you'll get a different scale, and you can keep adding it to the scales until you're able to unlock all the rooms. As you're exploring these rooms, you'll see some pretty crazy stuff like notes and also paintings that are foreshadowing for later on. You'll also see this hole. I don't need to tell you what James does to that. You already know. The prison is terrifying and probably the scariest location in the entire game, but it's for different reasons from the Brookhaven Hospital or the apartments. Yes, you are still confined, but the aura of the place is very unsettling as the other places, but you are not confined vertically. The roof of the entire prison is very tall, and that is for a good reason. If you look up, you're going to see some freaky ass looking spider mannequins that can crawl on the walls and hide from you. And the entire area is pitch black, and you can activate the lights in a certain hallway, but it's for a short amount of time, and it never lasts more than like 30 seconds unless you're in the bathroom area. The solution to this is you finding a rifle in the prison that allows you to hit targets at far range accurately, but also doing a lot of damage. Eventually, you also see this prison cell, and you can go into it, and this happens. I have no fucking clue what this is, but it does not stop. In the original game, this was still here, but there was an invisible enemy in the cell that you could kill and then blood would go out, and it was very unsettling and creepy. And here, there is no invisible enemy, you can't interact with it, it just says the same word over and over again. But I would like to think that this point of the game represents him finally being able to almost connect the dots and how close he is to realizing why he's here. I would also like to think that's because he gets stuck in a prison cell at one point. It's more like a torture chamber, but you get the point. Put the right scales on the right sides, the pointer will point at a sword in the middle of the scale directly, and at this point the statue will drop an execution lever. James then takes this lever and puts it into a gallows that he can see now because the lights turned on in the yard. Upon further inspection, you're going to see that there is poems on the gallows that require you to finish them, detailing different people's crimes that they have done. They are all attached by a number, and behind you are a bunch of different gallows that also have numbers on them. So you pick whatever crime you think is just, and whenever you hang yourself on those gallows, James will fall. And if you pick the right one, he'll fall into the next section of the game. It's a morgue area with incinerators, and one of the bodies fucking moves, and I swung at it because I was scared. But 10 feet ahead of that, you're going to find another hole that you're going to need to jump into, and the game really makes sure that you want to jump down there. It's like, are you sure, man? This is going to be an existential, dreadful experience for you. Alright, go ahead. After that, there's another hole, but this time it's in a cave, and you jump down that one as well. After that, an elevator that goes down and scrapes on its way down. Holy shit, James, what did you do, dude? Here you're going to want to save. Right after this, you'll find a newspaper on the ground talking about Angela's father's death, detailing that her father died with multiple stab wounds and it's an open investigation. And right after this, you hear Angela talking to what sounds like her father in a room, and it's the only room that you can enter. It's supposed to look similar to the household of the apartment that Angela grew up in. And if you look closely, you'll see that one of the doors is boarded off. Now, I can only assume that as soon as Angela entered this room, she boarded off this room because A, it's either her brother's or her father's for obvious reasons to keep them out, or to keep them in, I suppose. Angela begs you to please tell him that she's going to be good, and as soon as this happens, James is confused, but then the abstract daddy boss fight starts.
Please. I'll be good, I promise. Tell him I'll be good, please.
Angela? Angela, it's me.
No, please. Daddy!
This boss fight is one of the best in the game in terms of storytelling and symbolism. The endless hallways and the closets that we watch Angela get into and suddenly disappear because she's actively running away. The pictures that we see in the closets of her family, and it's torn in half, separating her father and her brother from her and her mother. The TV is in the middle of the boss fight playing audio clips of her father talking to her, how awful he was. And at one point even her mother says that she deserved it in one of the TVs.
Where would you go? No one.
As you destroy them, you move through the level. There is so much symbolism here. I mean, look at the goddamn boss design. It is awful. And for Angela, this boss looks entirely different from what it looks like to us. The art director Ito of the Silent Hill series never actually shows us what this looks like to her, and I think that is an excellent way to approach that, and it makes it that much more powerful for us as the player. We don't deserve to see what it looks like for her because James did not go through what she went through. We cannot comprehend it from her point of view. At what point there is pistons on the wall that are moving to symbolize the kind of abuse that Angela would endure from her brother and her father. This is one of the few glimpses we get of how Angela felt towards her father and her brother constantly being chased down with nowhere to go. After we defeat this boss, Angela has a very, very important cutscene that is critical to her character. It's devastating and absolutely heart-wrenching, and I think the voice actor for Angela deserves all of the fucking praise in the world for how expertly she portrays this damaged person. This scene is very important for learning about Angela's character. This is where we learn what she has been through and what she's experienced in the past from her father. As soon as you kill the abstract daddy and she smashes the TV on it, which is, symbolic of her also killing her father, and the fact that whenever we go to the TVs we hear her father's voice from it, and this is what she uses to smash over the abstract daddy's head. She then has a very gut-wrenching dialogue with James where you put it together what used to happen. She talks to James and she says, I know what you're after. You're after one thing, or you could force me like he used to. Which, whenever you hear this for the first time, is one of the hardest cutscenes to watch, and it is a very emotional scene. And I cannot give props enough to the voice actor who voices Angela for doing an amazing job.
Okay, Angela. It's okay. Calm down.
Don't order me around!
I'm not. It's okay. It's over.
Don't even try.
Try what?
Like you don't know. I see what you're doing. It's always the same with you. You're only after one thing.
Angela, please.
You don't have to lie. Go ahead. Say it. Or you could just force me. Like he always did. You disgusting pig.
James says that he just wants to find Mary. And Angela says, your own little Mary. At least she was for a while. Admit it, you didn't want her around anymore. And this strikes a huge nerve in James. And James starts to really break down. I mean, those layers of repressed emotions and the amnesia he got from the stress that what he has just done starts to get to him. At this point, his fingernails are dirty, the bags under his eyes are much larger and much more visible than they were before. He is exhausted. Angela then says you probably found someone else, which not only shows the traumatic and view that Angela has on men because of her experiences, but also shows James' guilt for the nurses and Maria. Angela then leaves the room to go look for her mom. Now after Angela leaves the room, James stutters for a second and says to himself, I never, and then cuts himself off, almost trying to reason with himself that he didn't do those things, when in reality he knows that deep down he's guilty of exactly that.
Angela, I don't know who you think I am, but I don't want to hurt you. I just want to get my Mary back.
You're Mary. Your own little Mary. At least she was. For a while.
What?
Admit it. You didn't want her around anymore.
No.
You probably found someone else.
No!
I need to find my mama.
I never.
After this, we get to the labyrinth section of the game, which is my favorite part of the entire game. This point forward, the last third of the game, is my absolute favorite part. You enter a hallway that is blocked off by these large distorted figures and makes you go to the right. Now, whenever you go to the right, you're going to see this empty chasm that makes you feel incredibly small and like you're in a place that doesn't belong to you. You're in a place that you're not supposed to be in. And if you keep going to the right of that, you'll eventually reach Maria. And somehow she's alive, which is weird because we saw her die fucking a little bit ago. Well, Maria's not real, and she's there just to punish James. So of course she's put behind a jail cell, where James can't physically get to her, symbolizing Mary. He's no longer able to interact or talk to her at all. James asks Mary how she's alive, and she acts confused by this and says, "What are you talking about?" A little bit later, she then talks about memories that only James and Mary would know to even confuse him further and make him and manipulate him. She mentions a tape that they made at the Lakeview Hotel and wonders if it's still there. This is very important.
You were always so forgetful. Remember that time in the hotel?
Maria?
You said you took everything. But you forgot that videotape we made. I wonder if it's still there.
How do you know about that?
Maria then tempts him more and says, "You are Maria, aren't you?" And then Maria says, "If you want me to be." Before James leaves and says, "I'll come back, I promise," holding onto the door as he leaves, almost symbolizing that he doesn't want to leave. He wants to be with her.
Aren't you Maria?
I'm not your Mary.
So you are Maria.
I am. If you want me to be.
All I want from you is an answer.
It doesn't matter who I am. I am here for you, James. See? I'm real. Don't you want to touch me?
I don't know.
Well, if you happen to make up your mind, I'll be waiting.
I'll find some way to... I'll come back, I promise.
Once you go back to that large chasm, a big building is there now. You can flip. Whenever you flip it the right way, platform extends, allowing you to enter it and walk through it to get to a set of 3 doors. These are 3 different labyrinths that you're going to have to explore and descend deeper into James' mind. First one makes you gather components of a lighter as you explore this hellhole liminal space with grates that mandarins are under, trying to kill you the entire time until you get lighter fluid, a lighter case, and a wick, down whatever this fucking thing is. What is interesting to note here is that there's a random office workspace in this labyrinth that is presumed to be James' workspace in real life, as it is confirmed that he is an office clerk. I do find it funny that in James' personal hell, his office cubicle is there. After you burn down the rope connected to the heavy object and it breaks to the floor, you jump down a hole and end up at the flipping building again. Flipping building, not flipping building. Like, you get the point. Then you go to the desolate area, which was the scariest for me. Oh my god, I hated this area. Especially because you know that Pyramid Head is around as soon as you get here because you see gigantic slashes on the wall. But this area just requires you to go through it, although it is very creepy, requiring you to go underground in some sections, but eventually you'll get to an area where you're just fucking jump scared by Pyramid Head and he chases you around in a circle, and then you go get fence clippers and you have to run back through that circle and he chases you all the way to a fence where you clip it and then climb down a ladder and he's fucking there staring at you while you do all of this shit, and it's tense, it's stressful. Then you get to the ruined area, which is the coolest area in my opinion because you go through these long spanning hallways that take you to the first area that you encountered Pyramid Head in, putting us through heavy combat in this room. And then once you defeat all the enemies in that room, you walk through a longer hallway and the other world starts to collapse, only to go into the same room, but as you go through it again, it's more distorted, forcing you to fight even more enemies. And once you complete that room, you go into another long hallway and the other world breaks apart more, and you do it again. And rinse and repeat until the room is basically unrecognizable in just metal fences and grates. Until eventually it stops, and then Pyramid Head breaks out of a corridor and you're trapped with him. Now there's only one way to go, but it's the distorted figures that we couldn't part ways or go through earlier. But for some reason they part ways with James, or they part ways for Pyramid Head. So as Pyramid Head chases you, the distorted figures open up for Pyramid Head and you're able to pass through. But as you pass through, the wall collapses behind you, blocking off Pyramid Head from getting to you. And after all this, you finally reach Maria, like James promised you would. Whenever you get there, she's already dead, but not like the stab wound from we saw earlier in the elevator. She's dead from an illness, it appears, and almost in a hospital-like state, much like Mary. And James just completely breaks down at the sight of this because number one, it reminds him of Mary, but number two, he is being tortured and somehow lost this person again, defying all laws of fucking human life. And he is absolutely losing his sanity at this point.
Maria.
This scene is everything James did not want to see again. But he abruptly stops crying, almost like he's catching himself in doing something that he shouldn't, crying over another woman.
Mary.
It's almost like he snapped out of it and realized what Maria actually is. Whenever you go back to the building area, this time you're going to see Pyramid Head's sword stuck into the pile of rubble where the puzzle once was. It's just the other half of Pyramid Head's sword. You'll actually find out, and this was confirmed by the art director himself, that Pyramid Head's sword is one half of a huge pair of scissors. I like to speculate that because the barbershop in the Fog World has a note talking about Pyramid Head and talking about that scraping noise that comes from his sword. It is the scissors above the barbershop, but I could be wrong. But I'd like to think that the sword represents the repressed part of James that he neglected for the first part of the game that we played up until now. He's only able to navigate these distorted figures and bodies because the pair of scissors that he's holding represents the repressed parts of him that he's finally able to face and the burden that he's able to carry and realize. Right after this, we get to a graveyard room with a bunch of graves with names on it. And among those, you can see James' name, Angela's names, and Eddie's name, but you can also see Walter Sullivan, which is the antagonist from Silent Hill 4. You can also say Miriam K., which is theorized to be Miriam Locane from Silent Hill 4 as well. Imagine how fucking trippy it is jumping into your own grave. That's insane. So after you jump into your own grave with the void in it, you end up in a freezer room with Eddie. And there is a numerous amount of bodies around him that he looks like he's been killing. Eddie talks to the dead bodies and says, "How many times do I have to kill you?" He then talks to James about his insecurities and how people view him, reciting remarks that he's heard, and then James tells him to calm down, and Eddie does not like that shit at all and points the gun at him.
What are you doing?
Well, what's it look like I'm doing? You fat, disgusting piece of shit, you make me sick. You gonna cry, fat ass? You gonna run to your mama? Waste of skin, why don't you just kill yourself? Well, maybe he was right. Maybe I am nothing but a fat, disgusting piece of shit. But you know what? It doesn't matter if you're smart, dumb, ugly, pretty. It's all the same once you're dead. And a corpse can't laugh.
Eddie.
What's that? You want to talk down to me some more? Tell me to relax? You're just like the rest of them, James.
No, I don't want to.
Shut up! You think I'm stupid. You think I don't see it. But you've been laughing at me all along. Ever since we first met. But you ain't laughing now, are you?
You need help, Eddie.
Don't get all holy on me, James. This town called you too. You and me are the same. We're not like other people, don't you know that? Well, you're about to find out.
James punches Eddie's bitch ass until he falls over and then runs away into the next room. A cool detail to note here is that a lot of the bodies in this room kind of look like James, which I don't think is at all what that's supposed to represent. It's just a cool detail I thought I'd talk about. In the very next room, the boss fight with Eddie happens, and I'm not going to lie to you, it's pretty easy and it's pretty simple. But the cool idea here is that we get to see what the other world looks like for Eddie. It's very cold and he's by himself and he's surrounded by slabs of meat, similar to how he views himself as. He thinks that he's not a real person and people only see him for what his physical body looks like. Angela's hell was her father and Eddie's is himself. After the boss fight though, James looks at his hands and does the same motion that he does at the beginning of the game, only this time it's shorter, like he's becoming familiar with this feeling of taking a human life. You then go back into the fog world and take the biggest fucking deep breath you could ever imagine because, oh my god, it is so much better than the fucking everything. But then you row across the lake, and this is extremely important because the lake is talked about through various portions of the game, talking about a tale of two lovers that were forbidden to see each other, but at night one of the lovers would row across the lake, this very lake that we're talking about. And the only way that he would be able to navigate it was by the other lover lighting a candle, and so he could row to that. But one night there was a storm, and the lover wasn't able to light her candle to guide the man. So he got lost out on the lake and eventually succumbed to the lake, dying there. But the importance of the story is very apparent because it is told to you time and time again with slight altercations in each one. Once you cross the lake, you'll go to the Lakeview Hotel where you'll meet Laura once again. And Laura gives you a letter that was written to her by Mary, and once reading it, you'll see that Mary wishes Laura a happy 8th birthday. James then asks Laura, when was your 8th birthday? And Laura says, about a week ago.
I love you, Laura. I love you like my very own daughter. I wish things were different. I wish we could be happy together, like we talked about. Even so, I know you will have a good life. You're a strong, smart, beautiful girl. Happy 8th birthday, Laura. Your friend, Mary.
Laura. How old are you?
I turned 8 last week.
That means Mary couldn't have died 3 years ago.
Which is fucking crazy because James claims that Mary has been dead for 3 years due to her illnesses. So someone's lying here. She then gives James an envelope that is addressed to him, but whenever he opens it, there is no letter waiting for him and it's empty. James tells this to Laura, and Laura feels bad, so she runs away to go look for it and says that she must have lost it somewhere. Then let loose in the hotel, and if you go to the main lobby area, you'll find some notes regarding James's videotape. Your map will be marked at the room 312, saying waiting for you, implying that Mary's there. And in the lobby area, you'll also find some keys, with one of them opening a music box in the lobby area that you're going to need to find 3 figurines for. The hotel area is not as scary as the prison or the hospital, but it's not really meant to be. It is supposed to be how James remembers it from his vacation with Mary. It is the perfect ending location in my opinion because it is somber, and it is also James and Mary's special place. This area has a lot of cool concepts. It has 2 different portions that require you to make a choice between apples or eggs, and they give you different points to different endings depending on which one you choose. There is a window in the stairwell that I spent way too much time looking through because I thought there was going to be like a special fucking jump scare or visual idea there. Nothing was there. I just looked at it for 20 minutes for no fucking reason. Whenever you're done exploring the first floor, you'll find the Sunrise Wing key in the utility room, which unlocks the second floor, or part of it. In here, you'll find a bookshelf puzzle that took me longer than it should have that opens into a hidden room with a vanity mirror that you're going to have to solve as well. One of the creepiest puzzles in the game to me, but also one of my favorites. If you run over this counter, you'll end up in the hall that will give you the key to room 202. Whenever you go in here, you'll be able to do the mirror puzzle, which you'll have to pick between 2 apples to put on a table. It's either going to be the ripe one or the rotten one. One represents Mary and one represents Maria. Maria is the ripe one, Mary is the rotten one, and depending on which one you choose, you get a different points to a different ending. But after you pick that and you solve the mirror puzzle by finding the glass shard on the bed and putting together the mirror and then picking the apple you want, on the other side of the hall in the opposite room from it, you'll find the first figurine. After this, you'll notice the hotel isn't looking so hot anymore. I'll see myself out. After this, you can also use the balcony from the hall to get access to the other wing of the second floor. And here you'll actually get access to the conference room. You'll need to go to room 107, which you get the key for in the conference room, to get the fireplace key in the garden. Whenever you open the fireplace, you'll get another figurine, you'll drop it, and then James goes, damn it, and then another boss fight will start. But this time it's the Mandarin above ground. It's not too difficult, and you'll probably defeat him pretty quickly. Right about here is where you're going to solve the vanity mirror puzzle. Fucking scary. Puzzle will give you the key to the employee elevator in the second floor, and you're gonna have to put away all of your belongings to use the elevator because for some godforsaken reason the elevator can detect shotguns. But whenever you go down there, there's mandarins roaming the halls, and you can't do jack shit about it because you're defenseless. There is a safe area of like an office in the middle of it, and whenever you go in there, you're gonna see an I'm Johnny one hot guy labeled like heating unit. This is important. But in this area, you're going to solve some puzzles, and eventually you'll get back into the Venus Tears bar in the lower level of the Lakeview Hotel. And this is where you're also going to get the third figurine, the mermaid one. Of course, you got to go back to the music box and fucking find out the fucking pathway. It's not that hard, Camry. You just got to fucking turn it the right way, and then they can... And after this part, there's going to be another poem part that you have to solve, but it's really just turning the keys with the number that's in the poem. It's not too hard. But then you'll get the 3F corridor key, and then you can open the 3rd floor corridor. I can't wait to see what's waiting for me up there, guys. I've been waiting the whole game for this. This cutscene that plays is the point of the game where everything just fucking clicks, and absolutely ruins what you thought your view of James was. This cutscene shows Mary talking to James in one of the rooms of the Lakeview Hotel, presumably 312 this room. And she's talking about how James has to promise to take her here again because it's one of her favorite places.
Are you taping again? Come on. I don't know why, but I just love it here. It's so peaceful. You know what I heard? This whole area used to be a sacred place. I think I can see why. It's too bad we have to leave. Promise you'll take me again, James?
It suddenly switches to James smothering his wife with a pillow, and you watch her fight him as he slowly kills her. The videotape is finished and it shows James staring directly at the ground, torn apart at what he just witnessed and now what he remembers. Right after this, Laura walks in asking James if he knows where Mary is, and James says that she's not here, and he has to tell her that he killed her. The entire game portrays James as this pretty normal guy whenever you do not understand what is going on. Whenever it is your first time playing the game, you do not perceive James as this kind of person. Maybe you did, and maybe you're a lot more clever than I was and you picked up on it, which I wouldn't doubt it. But for me at least, the first part playing through this game, I thought James was a pretty normal guy, and I understood that he probably did something bad, but I did not think that it was fucking that. From the perspective of a first-time player, it looks like James is just dealing with the struggles of losing his wife, dealing with alcohol, and you write off a lot of these things that maybe could be his but isn't ever actually proven, like the married ring in the strip club because that could be anyone's, or the idea that the hospital is somehow tied to him just because you're in the town, or the idea that the prison is his punishment because he's realizing what he has done. You just don't connect those dots until you realize who he is as a person and what he's done. James is a murderer who killed his wife. After this point, James gets pulled back into the fog world and we see the actuality of the Lakeview Hotel. It is burnt down and has been burnt down for a long time. The other world was playing games on him, making him view it as he remembered it with Mary, only to realize that he will never get those memories back, and now he is fated to be in this fucked up version of the actual world. James then gets up and hears Mary over a radio and ventures further, realizing now what this entire fucking thing is. It's a punishment for him. Eventually making it to an elevator that goes down into this flooded area, until you see a brightly lit door and you go into it talking to Angela for the last time. You meet her in a stairwell that is on fire with two bodies on either side. It's taped to the walls, presumed to be her brother and her father. She at first thinks that you're her mom, exclaiming "Mama" at you and saying that she's very happy to see you, which was what I was talking about earlier, is that at some points James appears as a completely different person to her just to torment her. And once she realizes it's you, her demeanor completely changes, and so has James at this point. Angela then goes on, in some of the best voice acting I've ever heard, to talk about how her mom said that she deserved what happened to her. And James says this isn't true, and then she says, "Don't pity me." She goes on to have this really powerful monologue, and she asks James if he thinks that he can save her and care for her and love for her. And James simply just doesn't respond. She tells James to give her back the knife, and James refuses. She says, "Fine, have it your way," and begins walking up the stairs. James says it's hot as hell in here, which we see the stairs are literally on fire, and Angela says, "You see it too?"
You think you can save me? Will you love me? Care for me? Heal all my pain? That's what I thought. James. Give me back the knife.
No, I won't.
Saving it for yourself. Have it your way. It doesn't change anything.
It's hot as hell in here.
You see it too? For me, it's always like this.
For me, it's always like this. Which is one of the most powerful lines in the entire fucking game, because this is the only glimpse we get at how the other world appears to Angela. As you walk further, you'll see very weak enemies who have lost power due to James realizing why he's here. You'll eventually reach another Otherworld section that opens to a long corridor with a save point, but this time the save point's different. It's 9 red squares instead of 1 to represent the 9 delusions that James faces throughout the games, whether it be the enemy types or Maria, all different things he has to face. This is also the only save point in the game where he will no longer look directly at the camera because he is ashamed and looks down at the ground or away because he can't bear to look at himself. The next cutscene that plays once you enter through the door is my favorite in the entire game, and I will play it without me talking because I'm a dumbass.
James!
Leave her alone. Leave us both the hell alone.
I know what you are. I know why I needed you. But it's all over now. I don't need you anymore.
Maria is shown to James dying specifically just to punish him further, and James has manifested another pyramid head for himself as a greater punishment that he thinks he deserves. This then triggers the Pyramid Head fight, where you fight both of them at the same time, where you have to avoid them and damage them, and as you damage them, the other world slowly falls apart and chunks come falling down. It's a pretty fun boss fight, and it's not too difficult. After which, though, both of the Pyramid Heads have served their purpose in punishing James and leading him to the realization, and they kill themselves, each of them holding an egg in their hand. One is a scarlet egg and one is a rust-colored egg that you will put into the doors below Maria, and you choose which door you walk through for which ending that you want. After this, you'll walk through a very long corridor with a monologue from Mary talking to James as her last moments a week before she dies or very soon before she dies. And if you listen to this entire monologue, you'll get an achievement, but you'll also get points towards a certain ending. It includes Mary lashing out at James, Mary begging James not to leave, and just a lot of really powerful voice acting from Mary. After this, you send up a long stairwell and then a ladder, and you reach what is finally appears to be Mary. But at this point, James knows why he's here, and he quickly hugs her and says that he misses her a lot, but realizes this isn't Mary. This is just another punishment. So he says, "I'm sorry," and realizes that it's Maria and tells her that you have to stop doing this, and that he can't just keep pretending that nothing happened. It's then shown that it is Maria, and she says that she can be there for him because Mary can't be, and she's here and she's not. James refuses, and Maria does not like that at all, and transforms into a diseased corpse of Mary wearing a nun hood. Try to stab and slash you, breaking through the structure that you're on and ultimately destroying it, but eventually you can defeat her, and even in her last moments of dying, Maria still tries to manipulate James and gets him to care for her. This is the last and hardest thing that James has to overcome, is ultimately leaving all of this behind, as Maria pleads for her life, and he has to kill what is essentially a second version of Mary. And after you kill her, you get whatever ending the points that you got add up to. The Silent Hill 2 ending point system works in the fact that you can reduce or get points towards a certain ending depending on your actions, and whatever ending category has the most points at the end, that's the ending you get. There is also different things like the Rebirth ending, which I got on my second playthrough, but on my first ending I got the In Water. The Silent Hill 2 remake is one of my favorite games of all time now. The story was not happy or fun, and half of the time it makes you feel dreadful, but this game aims to do just that. This experience is not meant to be incredibly fun, but I would be lying if I said it wasn't one of the most enthralling stories I've ever experienced. And I cared about the characters and story very deeply. It almost feels like it borders on the edge of being an art piece rather than a game. Sure, it's a game, but you can't explain it unless you've played it. It shows you the uncomfortable manifestations of James' inner guilt and demons in an unpleasant way that is truth to the nature of a human mind. I found myself replaying it just to try to understand the world and the characters better through the symbolism and tiny hidden details of each level. Like how the pistons work in Angela's boss fight, or how the first time we see Pyramid Head he's behind bars like James should be. The topics in this game are hard fucking ones to talk about, and they don't shy away from it at all, and I respect that. Showing you truly damaged people and what they have to face through symbolism or direct voice lines that are acted phenomenally. Or even actions. Sometimes James doesn't even have to say a single fucking word. You can tell by his face and the amazing mocap exactly what is going on in his head. Every level is handcrafted to make you feel uncomfortable and show you the stage of which James is at in his mind. And also to show the most repressed parts of Eddie and Angela whenever you're interacting with them. Eddie is here because he killed a dog and shot a football player in the leg and is on the run. And it just so happens that the room directly next to him, though, whenever you first meet him, is covered in football attire, in football posters, and a football award. And the revolver that he threatens to shoot you with is his father's that he used to do the very same act to what he's here for. Angela's knife that she carries is the very same knife to use to kill her father and her brother, the reason why she's here. It's just enough to see why they're here, but it never shows you their version of the Silent Hill that they're facing, because their trauma is not James's trauma. You don't get to see that. Moreover, just after I beat Silent Hill 2, I wanted to get deeper into the universe of Silent Hill, and so I'm now playing Silent Hill 3, and I'm over halfway done playing through it. But very few games have actually managed to get me hyper-fixated on it like this one did. Hell, I'm making a fucking hour-and-a-half long video. Fucking reading books and wiki forums to figure out everything about this game. Or fucking long-ass videos like this one. So thank you for watching, and if you haven't played Silent Hill 2, I highly recommend it. It is an experience that you will not forget. Just go play all of it without any fucking... If you've watched this video, you've had it fucking spoiled for you, so I don't know why you would go play it. Regardless, you should go play it, because even if this entire video recap did cover most of it, it will be different whenever you experience it for yourself. And go soak all of it in. This game made me scared shitless multiple times in the best psychological way possible, with one of the best stories that I have ever played. Thank you guys for watching. I'm still thinking about who wrote those fucking memos, and who wrote the fucking whole message in the bar. Thank you.